Ladies and gentlemen, lend me your ears.
Hi, this is your host Q, live and direct from Psyche Studio, Kochi. Welcome to the Groundbreakin, where we sit down with creators, design, and business pioneers to discuss their journeys, process, and approach. Feels good to be back after a few weeks of hiatus, and we're gonna go strong from here. Excited to say that we have shifted our bases to the God's own country, Kerala. We are working on something special and really excited to share it with you moving forward. If you're listening to this podcast for the first time, consider subscribing. If you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give us ratings. It helps us to reach to a bigger audience, and also because we are doing one episode a week. As always, we value the feedback, so please reach out to us with any comments or questions you may have. You can also shoot me a mail mentioned in the podcast description. For this episode, we have Mayya Geo. She's a founder at Geobo, a design company who works around brand design for fashion companies of the future. They help fashion tech companies build their brand using their 6-step iconic brand process. We had a fun chat about her journey pursuing design, picking art in school, her love for mentoring and sharing knowledge. We had a deep dive about the process they follow at Geobo and future of sustainable fashion and phygitals in the Web 3.0 world. Hello, Mayya. How's it going with you?
Hi, Deepak. It's so good, thank you. How is it going for you?
Yeah, it's going great out here. I mean, I'm pretty excited about the conversation we're gonna have, and also feeling good that I've been able to resume the podcast after a break. So where am I right now? I mean, what time is it? What's happening?
So today I'm joining from Berlin. It's like 3 p.m. right now. And yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for having me today. And if you're stopping by in Berlin, I'm more happy to welcome you and to show you around. You know, that's the city of techno music, tech companies, street art, and definitely fashion forward outfits. One of the things that I really like about Berlin is that you can really be yourself, even if this looks like you're just rolled out of bed.
Yeah.
This is definitely something that you can see here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be in that city, and man, I mean, I definitely love that place. I think even the NFT revolution is happening there. And how long have you been living in Berlin?
So I've been living in Berlin since 2016. And since 3 months, I actually moved to Austria, and just now back for a couple of meetings, like a little bit of work and a little bit of meeting family and friends.
Awesome. Let's just take a deep dive in your career, and how was your journey has been till now. You started your career with doing graphic design?
Yes, that's correct. So first of all, I grew up in Sofia, Bulgaria before moving to Berlin, Germany. And it wasn't super clear and easy for me to know what exactly I want to do. And up to the age of 9, it was kind of tough because I wasn't sure what I want to do. I remember like teachers, my family, myself, a lot of people were kind of a little bit concerned about what I'm going to do because I wasn't really showcasing any particular skill set in any area. And that was until the point when one day my painting teacher actually came to me, and she advised me, and somehow I actually remember what she said. She said, have you already considered applying to the art school, which is the high school after the primary school? And I was shocked. I was really kind of, what? Why should I apply to the art school? And then she also said, good, I think that you actually have a skill set in drawing and painting, and this might be something that you want to do later in your life and maybe professionally. So she was actually the first person to show me around the possibilities of what I can do. she introduced me to graphic design, not only me, but also my parents. And this changed everything for me, basically, this person and this moment in my life, because after this conversation with her, I actually realized that I was already passionate about art and design, but I just wasn't sure, or maybe I wasn't believing in myself, I would say. And she believed in me, she saw the skill set, and then she kind of really helped me to understand my passion and my purpose. And since then, basically, I'm doing, first of all, I went to the art school with graphic design, and later I studied painting.
When you hopped into that space, you had an idea that, that you wanted to be a graphic designer, or was it that choice that your, teacher helped you to, make?
Yes, I think that was definitely something that my teacher helped me with, because to be honest, at the beginning, I was very interested in painting, maybe in sculpture. I was doing a lot of things with my hands, like building small, I remember small houses out of cartoon, and I was doing physical stuff. So I was even thinking that I might continue with this at the high school. But then actually she introduced me to graphic design and the possibilities afterwards, like the career path of a graphic designer. And this is how I got there. And I'm super happy that she did that, because I really found myself in the principles of graphic design and the studies. And I was really happy in my high school education, and later also in painting. And to be honest, that was also when I started working professionally. My first position was in the advertising agency Havas, which is an international agency. I started there working for some clients. But yeah, definitely I was really happy with where I landed.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a similar story. I talked to a lot of creatives, and a lot of them are, were clueless when they kicked off, their design career. So, I mean, once you were out of the college, you had an idea, okay, what kind of jobs you're gonna apply to, and did you find your space? Okay, that this is my space. This is where I'm gonna work moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure though. I was definitely confused. I think I just went through the straightforward path after the art college, and I already had an idea what I can do at the university. And basically, because I also had to sponsor my education on my own, I thought, okay, I already have the skill set, and maybe now it's the time to find a job as a graphic designer. And what I did back then was that I actually networked a lot, and I had some friends working already in advertising agencies and design studios. And this is how I ended up there. So more or less, that was a little bit of a consequence. This wasn't really planned, to be honest. And back then, that was like 2011. At least my perspective is that the design industry and the creative industry wasn't so open as today. So there wasn't like a mentorship or a very clear idea of what you can do later professionally.
Yeah, makes sense. And I can also see that. I mean, this is related to what you're doing right now. Were you always a person who were like, okay, I'm gonna do my own thing, or is it something that came a little later? When you were hopping from one project to another, working at one company to another, was something which came a little later, or it was always there? Okay, at some point I'm gonna have my own thing in studio.
Yes, that was always there. I even remember when the passion for that came. That was again during my high school years. I had this. We actually had like history of art, and we were learning about Andy Warhol and the factory. And when I saw that, I was just thinking, I want to be part of this, or I want to create something like that. And of course, somehow maybe it wasn't when I was 18 or 19 possible to do so, but I knew that at some point in my career, I will reach this point where I can actually start my own design project and studio. And there was also another thing that I did for the first 10 years of my professional life. I said to myself, I want to experience and I want to try different things before actually starting my own studio. And I think that that was a good start, because I went from, like I said, bigger design agencies to smaller studios. Then I worked on my own, and actually only after that I started the company.
Yeah, I can clearly see that, you had a nice journey where you in fact done a lot of projects which are, I'm loving their visual identity. I can also see that, thoroughly you worked around UI as well, and
Yes.
you're part of part of a number of organization, and where you're a UI design mentor, and you're a member of Metaverse Fashion Council. What is that?
Yes, thank you so much, first of all, for the kind words. So the Metaverse Fashion Council is decentralized organization which is working towards creating open fashion industry inside of the metaverse. And basically it's a collaboration between different organizations and professionals in order to do so. And as you can also see, sometimes they run events, conferences, and they do also have their own token system where participants can basically have some voting rights in the way how the fashion industry can function inside of the metaverse.
You knew about it, or I mean, you reached out to this council and were like, I want to be a part of it?
Mm-hmm. So I believe that the whole initiative started around 2 years ago, and I was already connected to some of the people behind the organization. And once the project started, I was really keen and interested to join them, because I do believe that this type of decentralized organization is needed. Otherwise, what we know from the current state of the fashion industry and how fashion works is that it is a very close industry. It's not easy to get in, and we definitely don't want to have exact the same happening inside of the virtual reality and metaverse.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a whole different world. And how was your transition from being a UI UX person to fashion industry? I mean, were you always a person who enjoyed fashion design as a space, or maybe you found a need to create something like this?
Mm-hmm. So how I started, basically, I said the first experience that I had was in advertising industry. And back then, I think the very first, one of the very first projects that I had was very annoying one, but it was basically for one of the biggest e-commerce and malls in Bulgaria. And they were doing this monthly issue of their magazine, including all of the products and brands, fashion brands that they represent. And I was onboarded on this project. So I was basically working for this issue of the magazine, where we used to do photo shootings, but I was mostly working on the magazine layout and design and how we showcase the products, also helping out different brands to represent their own products in a distinctive way. So this is how I started there. I remember that, the project was really a little bit difficult and time consuming, but very, very interesting. And since then, I also worked for other brands, like I would say some of them startups, some of them more established. besides, of course, I worked in many different industries. This is behind the most advertising agencies and design studios, bigger design studios. And back then I already had the opportunity to explore a little bit. And 2016, when I moved to Berlin, I also switched to UI UX, as you already pointed out. So I did a lot of different courses, which were sponsored by the agency where I worked back then. And they also had their own digital department inside of the agency. And I was already working only on micro websites. That was the trend back then. Also building some digital campaigns for our clients. And this is how I basically transitioned from, I would say, graphic design work to more technology and product design oriented work. But I was still working with different industry though. From, I would say, some of the brands that I worked with back then were Unicredit, Smirnoff. I also worked with McDonald's and some other institutions. And later, that's where we are coming into fashion and fashion tech. When I started Geobo, which was at the end of 2021, the first concept of the design studio was to do basically mostly digital product design and branding. And we were not thinking about niching our service to a particular industry. But then we also realized that we're too small as a studio to be as broad. And it would be actually a good strategy for us to decide a particular niche where it can be the most helpful. And that was how we actually decided to really focus our method, our process into helping fashion brands build their brands strategically and visually, because this was exactly the sweet spot between my knowledge of branding, technology, and the rising Web3 industry. That was exactly 2 years ago.
Yeah, and as a company, as a design studio, what you're exactly trying to do? I mean, I can see that. I mean, even on LinkedIn, I see a lot of your insights about where the industry is moving. But what is that thing that you're trying to do with the Geobo, and why do you think that there was this space that you needed to fulfill?
Yes, I think that's a great question. So the current state of the fashion industry, it's a little bit disturbing due to the fact that of the sustainability practices and where we're environmentally heading to, and the need for, brand strategy and branding, especially in this industry, is currently very, very important and needed, because a lot of fashion brands are trying to explore ways how they can become more sustainable. And of course, they also need to know how they can communicate this. For example, there was a very interesting research that a lot of fashion brands are not feeling comfortable with saying that they're sustainable because they're afraid that they're going to be named a greenwashing company. And that's where we come into play. So we want to advise them. We are kind of a consultancy for them to help them build their brand strategically, but also visually, and decide exactly on this type of messaging and communication that will help them position themselves in a good way for the environment, for people, and for the good practices, because it's not a choice anymore if they have to go sustainably. They have to do it. And even now, during the last weeks, just as we talk, the European Union is actually setting up new environmental practices and laws. And all of those companies would need a guidance into this process of onboarding themselves on exactly those type of sustainability practices, which we're not specializing in. We do know them. We have partners who are exactly filling this particular niche, because this is also a whole universe on its own.
Yeah, that's right. And got the idea. So, I mean, your main customer is the fashion businesses, fashion brands?
Yes, that's correct. So we have two main markets. From one side, we have, I would say, small size up to middle size fashion companies, traditional fashion businesses. And from the other side, we have those type of native digital fashion and fashion tech companies, which are actually our primary focus. However, we do have some, as I said, traditional fashion brands that they need support into this type of onboarding into the innovation and sustainability practices.
I mean, I mean, only the strategy is involved, or I'm sure, what you're trying to do is something which is again future forward, right? And a lot of brands are not maybe aware about how sustainable they are or how sustainable they can be. So how do you maybe convince that they even need your support? Or or when they are coming to you, they have an idea what they want. I'm just curious to know, because I also been in that situation where a lot of times in the beginning I have to do that discovery session with the client, where I have to where we have to discover what client really needs. And when it comes to something futuristic like what you're trying to do, I'm sure it can be really tough.
Yes, that's correct. I think so too. And similarly to your experience, we do need to do this type of discovery sessions and onboarding into those type of topics, although we are not completely new on what we are saying, because we have this type of a 6-step method that we use, which is basically focusing on setting the brand strategy, doing the needed research to define what type of challenges or needs the brand has at the moment. Then we're exactly working on building up their brand foundation strategically. So this is where exactly we work on how they communicate their brand story, their mission, vision, values, and such. And then only after these steps, we are actually moving into building up their visual identity and working on any conceptual design work. And I think that you're very right. So we do need to educate those brands, because they don't know, most of them they don't know, or they don't even know what to expect in terms of process or even results of this type of process. And that's why we also offer, I would say every 2 months, we have like an open doors brand workshop that fashion brands can join for free. And we even do exactly the first step of our approach to onboard them and do some exercises together. And exactly on those type of workshops, they can experience us, they can see what we can do, and they can also understand a little bit more about the current state of the industry. Because really, as said, it's not about a unique selling proposition anymore, whether they would like to be on board into new technology and innovation practices and also sustainability, especially now in the current recession and financial crisis. It's even more important for them to know where they are right now on the market and what they can do to remain there in a good way.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely. I mean, this is a very uncertain time, for especially for tech industry, and in fact, all kinds of businesses. Do you think it is? And again, do you think that this is also an opportunity to make your brand more sustainable? Because again, things are digital, and you can which doesn't need a lot of resources when it comes to maybe manufacturing, especially. I mean, maybe talking about the fashion industry, because again, now everyone's been talking about how much waste they are producing. So how much this whole scenario is affecting the fashion industry, to be specific?
I think that's a very good question. Basically, there are a few ways how we can look into that. From one perspective, we have digital fashion. And the main perk of digital items in fashion is that, as you said, we are not producing them physically. So we have an optimization of the processes. There's some research made, for example, how much water and electricity we would need to produce one t-shirt and how much it goes for the digital variation of this t-shirt. And it's definitely already more sustainable. So in that way, we kind of solve this problem. And I'm pretty sure that the future actually holds more digital items and only, having this type of wearable technology where our clothes are adapting to the weather, to the conditions. And maybe we won't even have so many pieces of physical clothing. So it's not going to be so much about, buying for fun or just buying because we want to have many items. But rather we're going to use actually digital fashion items to represent our personality and to showcase who we are. So this is one perspective, and there is another perspective in and some practices into producing actually physical fashion by using 3D design. And this also optimizes again the whole production process, because then the companies don't have to produce trials and different prototypes of the clothing, but they can do this digitally. And with the help of AI and AR, they can basically already, send the whole prototype digitally to whoever has to approve it. And then they have a lot of spare money for and budgets for producing and also sending these items throughout the world, because many companies are not located where they are producing. This is also another, of course, concern.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's mostly these South Asian countries that are producing most of the stuff out there. I mean, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, then we have Vietnam. So that's where all the manufacturing is happening. So again, I mean, I've noticed that whatever you're in your system, whatever you're trying to do involves a lot of fresh tools like, NFTs and generative AI and, working around it. And how do you think that, all these things can coexist and, be a part of a design process? I mean, because again, every day something's coming up and a lot of the tools are anyways going to become obsolete in few years. So I mean, again, the kind of stuff you're doing, I think more design studios should do. But how are you keeping up with what the design market has to offer already? Because again, I'm sure you're making new processes. So how I'm just curious to know, how you're managing with the future tools, keeping up with this new trend of AI.
You said something very interesting there, that some of the design tools and the new tools upcoming will become obsolete at some point, and I do believe so. I think what it's really interesting for us in terms of innovation and future forward thinking is, and especially in regard to Web3 and AI, is that it's this type of decentralized ecosystem and based on blockchain, of course. And AI, it's another tier and differently functioning and coming together with Web3. But this is what firstly got us interested, because this is the new creator economy and what most likely will be the future of fashion as well, and opening doors for more creators and more sustainable practices. So what we see now is that if 2 years ago or even 1 year ago, Web3, NFT and the metaverse were the most hot topics inside of the fashion industry and interesting for fashion brands, now we have the mainstream adoption of AI. And it seems like they're coming very nicely together in efforts to improve how fashion is being produced. We know in our network of fashion designers, like digital fashion designers, that are already implementing AI into their processes. We even currently work on the branding of one project that creates a whole ecosystem of only digital fashion designers producing fashion with generative AI and AI. And that being said, there is, from one hand, a very optimized process with using AI, because maybe something that happened before for a couple of hours, like, for example, creating a pattern, can be today created for a couple of seconds with the help of AI. And then, for example, if some of those designers, like independent designers or smaller design studios, couldn't afford to find a fitting marketplace or place where they can, sell out their art, now they can do so. There are a lot of those type of decentralized platforms, which is the connection to Web3 and blockchain. And it seems like they both work very nicely together. And as you said, I'm also very curious to know if they're going to become obsolete. But the whole idea behind it and the concept of having this creator economy is very interesting for both business, artists, and consumers, I believe.
Yeah, makes total sense. So let me. What do you think is the future of fashion brands? I think we've already been seeing a lot of AR experiments and fashion shows and things like that. How do you think that the future fashion design gonna look like? How do you think that this is gonna be normalized? And how do you think it's gonna be a part of a person who loves fashion, for example?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. So phygitals are maybe just to explain, like phygitals is the hybrid word between digital and physical, and fashion loves it. And the reason for that is that basically phygitals are the way to onboard new users, because many right now are hearing, okay, there's this digital item costing $500. Why should I pay for something digitally so much? However, when they have the attachment together with a physical item, then this seems to them more valuable. And it's something tangible, it's something that they can touch and that they can receive. And many say that, and it seems like this is really the way how we can onboard the mainstream user. So that's the first step. Also with phygitals, another very big upside to use phygitals is that once they are registered as an NFT on the blockchain, we can then actually follow the authenticity of the item. And especially for luxury fashion, this is a very legit scenario and case. That's why they like to use it. And yeah, I think the future of fashion, that being said, I think it's more digital. This is also what we believe in the studio and the direction that we work into, because any physical fashion item, so a lot of sustainability professionals, they're saying there is no sustainable fashion. And more or less that this is true, because the more we produce, the closer we get to this environmental crisis. So the only solution is basically to produce less, produce only enough and only so much as we need. And that's why in terms of physical fashion, I really believe and I hope that this would be the future, where we produce on demand, we repair old items, we produce, as said, maybe fashion tech and wearable tech that we can definitely somehow adapt to the environment and to our needs. And for our virtual experiences, we can then wear digital fashion. And that's, even today, we're basically meeting through Zoom. So more or less we are in the virtual reality.
Yeah, that's right, for sure. Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about the kind of process you follow. I mean, how are you? What's your process when you're maybe creating a brand for for a fashion or a tech company, and how is it maybe different from someone who's coming from a traditional background, to someone who, of course, the new brands knows about the where the industry is going forward, but how is it different with the traditional fashion brands?
Yes, so our process is basically a 6-step approach, which is adapted to work for both traditional and digital fashion brands. So basically we have, as part of those six steps, the first one is focusing on discovery and really challenging and understanding where the company is, what is the current market state, and even competitors. Then the second step of our process tackles exactly innovation, sustainability, and setting up the brand foundation. And this exact step is where we have a difference between, let's say, a traditional and a digital fashion brand, because they might be both interested in those type of workshops and, understanding more about the possibilities and what they can do. However, for example, one native digital fashion brand, they are already implementing 3D, and they use like different softwares to create their products. So they're already onboarded, but they're also interested to know the sustainability practices. So this is also the place where we kind of adapt our method to the concrete project. And then we have the third step of our process, which is focusing on differentiation and creating this unique USP, because we do believe that no matter the size of the company, and also the type of the company, this is one of the most important parts of their brand strategy and process. If there is no clear differentiation or a different product even, it's very difficult to be a sustainable company on the market. And then we have the fourth step of our process, which already focuses on building up a unique brand personality and DNA. That's where we work towards creating a profile and identity that doesn't match other companies, and something that can really represent the brand story and narrative. On the step 5, we basically build their brand identity and any visual identity assets that we have to develop, like logos, colors, typefaces, 3D objects, environments, and such. And on the 6th step, we basically identify where they can position their brand, which channels might make sense. And this, I believe, is also a massive difference between the traditional fashion brands and the digital fashion brands, because also as similarly as in the NFT space, digital fashion brands have to create communities around their own brand. And the places where they communicate and position might be a little bit different compared to a traditional fashion brand. And that's why this step here is very important. We also set kind of a future map. So already thinking about how the brand will grow into the years.
That sounds like a fine process, Mayya. How do you think, what's your hardest part of all of these 6 steps? I mean, where okay, you're like, okay, now we got to do this. So is the positioning part? In my case, it's definitely, I find positioning something which is the toughest part in my case. What about you?
I think, similarly to you, actually, that's exactly the 3rd step of our process, which is differentiation, positioning, and building up this unique selling proposition. And I think that the reason for that to be the most difficult step is that you have to be, first of all, you have to have enough details about not only the company, but the whole market and state and basically everything. And then you have to take up this idea and come up with a strategy and something unique that would basically position the brand, or the brand can take with themselves through the years. And this is definitely not an easy task. And it also requires bravery from the side of the studio, the agency, and the client side. Because I don't know how is this for you, but usually for us it's very difficult to navigate and somehow showcase to the clients the importance of actually being brave in their business decisions. And I understand that, but sometimes really it makes sense to, do something differently and just make sure that you're not doing what every other brand does.
Yeah, that sounds bad. I again, now this is something which I've noticed about you as a person. I think I think you're a person who loves to share her knowledge and mentor people. And I think I've also been in a situation where we had that session where I asked a number of questions. How do you? What do you think about mentoring and why even do you do that?
Yeah, that's true. We actually got to know each other because you're also mentoring on ADP list, right? Yeah, that's a great platform. So I think that as what I said at the beginning of our conversation, when I was starting out, I didn't knew about the possibilities in the industry and the possible career paths, but somehow I really felt that there was not this type of open mentorship or even access to international mentors, as for example on ADP list, where you can just basically go through a web page and find mentors from all over the world. I think that's a great opportunity, and especially for younger designers or people who are just entering the industry, this type of support and guidance into not only providing an overview of the current state of the industry, but also helping them out to understand who they are as creatives and how to position themselves as creatives on the market. I think this is an invaluable support and advice that you can get. And I'm super happy for the mentors that I had throughout my career, because more or less they shaped me as the creative who I am today.
Yeah, so sounds fair, and I think what it does is also gives you an insight about what's happening with the young guns right out there. People who are experienced even. A lot of times this happens where I learn a lot from the session. So I think that definitely helps with the process and approaching people. In my case, all right, Mayya. What's the future for Geobo? And what are you excited about the most?
I think the future is digital, for sure. And what I'm really excited about, we have a few projects currently happening in the pipeline, and we are also planning our own home-baked brand academy. So we've been experiencing some changes in the last couple of years. I would say this and last year, basically, we see that there is a little bit of a different need on the market, and especially with this type of companies that we work with, that are not necessarily always needing the execution on the project, but they want to be kind of guided through the process of building their own brand. And this is what we are currently developing, this type of, let's say, a cohort and masterclass where we want to offer support to fashion brands building their brand and also develop their own unique brand DNA. And I think this is going to be very exciting, especially because we're going to bring a few brands together. So they basically have to connect with other companies and see their challenges and grow together inside of the program.
Yeah, all the best for that. I'm also excited. I think I'll try to participate because I think I have a lot to learn in that sector. And also, I mean, you mentioned that you have these open session. How can we join these sessions and what is it about? The next one, I think I recently saw your LinkedIn post where you mentioned about that.
Exactly. So where you can find the link or the sign up page to the open workshops is on our website or on LinkedIn. We usually do the promotion. So those type of open workshops are happening once per month or once every 2 months, depending on how much work do we have to do because we are still a small team. And basically, what is the workshop about? First of all, we want to present exactly this type of an overview and our method to even not only fashion brands, but people like yourself, creatives who are interested into learning how exactly we do what we do. And we also share some insights of the current market state. And after that, what we do is basically the first step of our approach. So we do some exercises together. One of the exercises is building up the personal, so the founder narrative and also the brand, the corporative brand story. We help founders to define how their own personal brand story incorporates into their own fashion brand. And then the second exercise that we do is basically understanding their target audience better, because we believe that similarly to the human-centered design approach, this is the way how we should start. So we're not starting with building up a whole product and then deciding who is going to be the target audience, but rather understanding the people who are going to use what we're producing, and then create a product that can actually answer their needs and whatever they're looking for. Because even, for example, if we're talking to a user who is based in Berlin or a user based in Tokyo, they might have completely different needs. And this is also exactly the same for digital fashion. So we see, for example, experiences like Roblox or Fortnite creating different experiences and also different type of fashion lines, which are targeted by location, but by age group and such. And this, even digitally, still matters.
That's right. And I wish you all the best. What you're trying to do, however you're trying to make an impact. And I wish we get to collaborate in the near future.
This will be amazing. I wish to do that, Deepak.
And thanks again for hopping onto the podcast, Mayya. It was a great chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was very fun and insightful.
Yeah, groundbreaking.